man. Let's do this.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Say Report. In the sage words of Sejohn Sarowick, let's do this. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, the aforementioned host companion, Sejohn Sarowick. Sejohn?
I'm still looking for Space Jams.
Yeah. Inside baseball, behind the curtain, we use Skype now to record the show. We've used Skype for a long time, but I think there was a time where we're switching to Discord. And then Discord really wants a lot of your CPU, and that doesn't work if you're running, editing programs alongside it. I don't know why, but we decided to go back to Skype. And Skype, I don't know why. Why would, Microsoft, I know, Xbox, right? That's the whole tie-in that they're doing. There was the new Space Jam game that we already talked about, the Xbox controllers, and now Skype cannot escape the new legacy of Space Jam, and you can react to your buddies using some of the best characters from the movie, like LeBron James, Bugs Bunny, Lola Bunny, Daffy Duck, Speedy Gonzales, Granny, and I think Daffy. I don't know if I said Daffy, and Tweety Bird.
No. The other reason that we stopped using Discord is that Discord has a good feature for when you're trying to argue with your friends playing a video game, in which it will auto mute whoever was speaking for the new person to speak, and that sounds like shit when you're recording.
Yeah, and
we don't record separate tracks. We record straight out of Skype, so that wasn't going to work for us.
No. But it works. I like being on Skype. It's pretty good. I'm never going to switch to Microsoft Teams, no matter how many times it tells me you can be on Teams for free. Well, that's nice. But I'm less of a team player, and there's no I in team.
Funny. Yeah, everybody kind of formed their opinion about this shit over COVID, right? Like once we all started working from home, suddenly everybody picked a side, and seems like the majority of humanity fell on the side of Slack, right? But Teams is where my company fell, and so that's where I'm at. And whatever. I've never gotten in on these wars. When people are just like, oh, I prefer Apple over Windows and that sort of shit. That might be the closest I get to getting tribal about my tech shit. But we've never favored one particular game console over another. Fuck, we play Stadia more than anybody.
I think I have them all. I mean, I did some Amazon Luna gaming this weekend.
Yeah.
Because I think we're gonna have to talk about Gamescom, just because it happened and some things were released and they touch on things that we've talked about before. But before we go any further into this show, this episode of the Say Report, I would like to congratulate the two-time TV Tontine winner, Betty Marion White, for making it through yet another full cast with the tragic... No, I mean, it's not... Tragic is probably too harsh a word. It hit me real hard, and it seems to have hit the world really hard. But by all means, it's not like Ed Asner was hit by a meteorite or died in a car crash. Old age, is that tragic when you die from old age, or is that just you did it right?
Yeah, it's one of those things where tragic feels like it's too harsh a word, but you can use it. It grammatically fits the situation, if not emotionally.
Right. I don't know. I just think that, it's tragic what is happening in Afghanistan right now, and the people we lost. It's tragic what's happening in New Orleans.
Words mean things, Dan. Yeah. I'm right there with you. I get that. But the idea being that we lost Ed Asner, and that is sad.
Right.
on whatever level of that scale, it is still on the sad side.
Oh,
of it,
yeah.
Right?
It's super sad. And I'm trying to silver line it by being like Betty White. I mean, I have to imagine that all of these TV casts enter into a tontine, especially in the fucking 70s and 80s.
Well, once you get into syndication, yes, that's right there in the contract.
So, it's insane to me that, Betty White is going to be 100 years old next year.
Mm-hmm.
And, good for her, but, that's my silver lining, because I am affected by the passing of Ed Asner in a way that I was sort of surprised by. Just being reminded how connected he is to things that I love in my own life. Specifically, my Hotmail email address, right, which I still use, so I won't be giving it out here on the show, is inspired by a character that he played on Freakazoid. And like that was my thought. It's like, oh my god, Cosgrove is dead.
Yeah, man, it's one of those things where his passing really reminds you how small of a world Hollywood really is when you see the number of people that come out and pay their respects, and they're from every walk of life when it comes to Hollywood. You have guys that are our age out there. You have kids younger than us that are thanking him for being there in even just a moment. And then you have Betty White. You have these ones that are older than dirt that are also reminded of like working with him when he first started. Like he was around for so long and was willing to do anything to the point where he was everywhere. He was everywhere, and we didn't always pick up on it. And so yeah, it's definitely a sad one because you don't know how much Ed Asner was actually in your entertainment until now. Every time he pops up, you're going to be like, oh, that's right, he was in this one too.
The amount of things that he had in production on IMDb, like, blew me away. And I'm just like, oh, there's going to be a lot of moments where I'm going to get kind of sad going forward.
Well, right. I mean, the big one that everybody seems to be pointing to is like 3 days before his passing was the release of the stuff for Doug the dog, right? Where he, I believe, reprises his role.
He does reprise the role of Carl.
Yeah. So with Up and all that, I mean, like one of his most emotionally important roles for a lot of people, and he's going to be playing that role one last time for us, and it's sad.
Yeah, he also got to play Cosgrove one more time in 2021 in the very weird Freakazoid Teen Titans Go crossover episode that I still haven't fully wrapped my mind around.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. That's all I can say about that. They Cartoon Network did a bunch of weird stuff like that kind of around the same time, because they also at that same time they also had an OK Go episode that crossed over with Sonic X, right?
Yeah. I mean, the big thing there was it felt like Cartoon Network, which is owned by Warner Brothers, was sort of getting kids ready for Space Jam: A New Legacy, because it's always going to be about Space Jam: A New Legacy if we're talking about Warner Brothers, because they made it all about Warner Brothers in that film. I mean, to the fact that Teen Titans Go to the movies, no, Teen Titans Go to see Space Jam is a thing that exists in the world now. And it is a MST3K style pop-up video viewing of Space Jam with the Teen Titans there talking about, man, this movie crazy. And it's like, it is, Beast Boy. It really is. You hit the nail right on the head there.
Man.
So yeah, but yeah, Ed Asner, R.I.P., much respect from the Say Report, everything. I will remember when we watched Roots in school, and he shows up as the captain on the slave ship, and I'm like, Mary Tyler Moore's boss, the slaver? And that got a little titters of laughter from the auditorium, and then I got spoken to about, you need to be quiet, Devin. And I'm like, we're watching Roots, guys, come on.
How about a little levity?
I think that the saddest thing about watching Roots in school, it's threefold. I've already told the one story, is that when we went to lunch, somebody switched it out with American Pie, and I got blamed. and still to this day, I don't know who did that and sullied my good name. The second thing is that, like, Roots was a big deal.
Yeah.
So, like, it wasn't one of those things that people in our age group probably hadn't seen before. So to, like, shut down the entire 8th grade, put us in the auditorium and be like, we're watching Roots today? Like, that's, ugh.
Yeah, see, we had the moment where in history class we were talking about slavery, so we would watch that glory, but the thing was that it was only in class, and we never watched the entire thing, because if they were going to do it in the 45-minute periods that I had in middle school, it would have literally taken 3 weeks to watch. Yeah,
I guess I forget that, like, Coventry, Rhode Island, was a test ground for 80-minute periods. So we had 80-minute periods, and you had like A day and B day. So I would never have math 2 days in a row.
No, thank you. No,
Well,
we had rotating schedules too, and we did have an A day and a B day, but it was either an 80. It was Jesus. Now you got me saying it. It was either 45-minute classes throughout the day, and you had a bunch, and then your B day would actually be a hour and 10 minute. I don't know why they'd bother with that. So like we had hour and 10 minute periods, but that would mean that basically we took two major classes, and those would be like band and like whatever your like quote unquote major was. Like if you were like, I'm gonna focus on math, you could take math, or science, you could take science. I couldn't tell you what I chose at this point. Probably just band two.
that's what I did.
Yeah.
I never had a study class. I went to band again.
Yeah, but if
Because
we did anything longer than 70 minutes, I would have killed myself.
I mean,
No,
yeah,
thanks.
80 minutes. It was four 80-minute periods, and lunch was extended. It was like half. So we did 40, and then you either started lunch and then 80 straight, 40 lunch, 40, or 80 straight, and then you got to have lunch. Like
Yeah.
it was, and what they said was the idea behind it is we're preparing you for college. And that's kind of true, right? Like college courses are generally longer, and you're not going to be in a math course every day, right? You'll have like
Right.
your Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or your Tuesday, Thursday. Which also sounds like it kind of sounds like Rhode Island was a test environment for a lot of different ways to educate students. Educate.
See Chicago math.
Yeah.
I have probably ranted about that before on the show, but about how that basically that's the other thing about math is basically any chance I ever had of being a mathematician was just shot in the foot by Chicago math for 3 years,
I
2 years longer than Chicago itself did it.
My biggest misstep in my schooling career was in seventh grade, they rounded up 30 of us and said, congratulations, you're all taking the eighth grade curriculum, but you're still seventh graders.
What?
So I essentially got skipped a grade, but I was only in seventh grade. So then when it came time to be in 12th grade, I literally had completed everything, but they're like, but you still need to be in school because you haven't done 12, you didn't do it.
You
So
didn't
like,
do the legal amount. You did the educational amount, but you didn't do the legal amount of schooling that is required of you as a child
so
in this world. Apparently.
literally in my senior year, the only class that I had to take, and this is because my 10th grade geometry teacher, I rubbed him the wrong way. We kind of clashed as people because he was a bully. I have no problem saying that my 10th grade geometry teacher was a fucking bully. And I have no problem saying that because I'm not saying his name, right? But if you were in class with me, you know that he was a bully. And I wasn't going to stand for that. So I like stood up to him a bunch. Also, 10th grade geometry. In the summer, they tried summer math. Did you ever do summer math? Like, I'm sure you did summer reading, right?
They definitely tried to implement other like summer things, including a go to school summer course for science, where you would go and just do science kits, just like all the time. So it was basically like a cool like science club, and that was like the one I wanted to do, but no, I never got to do that one either. But I didn't participate in any of the summer stuff. Even summer reading at some point fell to the wayside because they stopped doing anything about something. Like they were like, here's your summer reading list, and then we were like, do we have to write reports, do we get tested, what happens? And they're like, oh no, just read a book. Okay. Like, all
So
right.
our summer reading, there was the required book, and then there was the other books, and it was like 6 books, and you had to read one of those. And then when you got back, oh, holy hell rained down. In like first day, you'd get a test on the book that everybody was supposed to read. And I'm like, well,
They
this
did
is
that up
fun.
until like 8th grade for us, but after that it kind of fell
That
away.
was-
So yeah. No.
That was my entire high school career. But yeah, so summer math was come down to the football field, not the one at the high school, come down to the community football field, which is across from the middle school, and we're going to give you a geometry book, and you're responsible for teaching yourself the first 4 chapters of geometry.
How did that work out?
Well, Sejohn, I'm glad you asked. Devin Decker was the only student who taught himself the first 4 chapters of geometry. And I didn't do it like I didn't like treat it like a course or anything like that. The like week before, I played Final Fantasy IV, and then I would look at geometry stuff and be like, oh, and it made sense why, because the first 4 chapters in this geometry book, which if it were me, I'd maybe teach a different book, right? Maybe don't use this as the textbook if the first 4 ones, like the first chapter was a whole chapter on lines. And then the second chapter was a chapter on shapes. And like they did it, and I'm like, oh, this is nothing. Like this is nothing work. And really all they're saying is like, know what lines and shapes are. Understand the difference between mean, median, and mode. And like maybe Pythagorean theorem. That's what we expect from you in this geometry course going into it.
Man, yeah, no, we didn't.
Oh, you didn't have to deal with that. So
we didn't have to teach ourselves math over the summer. No.
So, and I mean, I really, if I look at like the splinters in my educational career and where I think public schooling failed me, I'm using air quotes there, because I think in a lot of ways public school was good for me, specifically social wise, and like being able to balance 2 separate things since I worked my entire high school career and I got to learn how to balance like work-life balance that way, which is cool. Like that was a cool thing to get to learn. Sorry, I'm trailing off.
No, maybe that's more. No, maybe that feels a little bit more like the college level lifestyle that you were talking about, though.
Right, but I mean, like, I was one of the only kids I knew who worked. like it's because it's Coventry at the end of the day. But yeah, so that happened, and because I taught myself and nobody else did. So then, like, the first month and a half of my sophomore year, I did nothing for 80 minutes a day whenever it was math class because everybody else had to learn it and a lesson had to be administered. And like, that's when I realized like, this is useless. I taught myself this stuff. and like suddenly, right? And then like the teacher's a bully to people. So like the only place I have to put my wayward 16-year-old energy is to fighting against this guy bullying 16-year-olds in his late 20s.
Yeah.
So then,
I mean, this is the exact kind of shit they talk about when they talk about how like maybe a kid is not bad at school, maybe he's just bored. Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Hello, this is exactly what I'm saying. And then at the end of the whole thing, he's like, you know, you were really good in this class, but I fucking hate you. So I've recommended you for trigonometry instead of pre-calculus. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I don't really care, right? I understand math. Oh, it's going to be a little easier for me in my junior year? Yeah. Oh, I'm going to cry about that. Like, you can't beat me, sir. I'm Devon Decker. And then I went in and trigonometry ended up being probably the greatest class I ever took. The entire football team that was in that class for me, it was the first time that it was half juniors, half seniors, right? Where all my other classes were, it's all juniors and it's all sophomores in this class. So it was like a split class, which was good because in 7th grade, like, we ate lunch with 8th graders. So all of my friends were seniors when I was a junior. So, like, It finally feels like, oh, I'm kind of, like, with people I know again. But half the starting lineup of the football team was in our trigonometry class.
Yeah.
And I'm the reason that they got to start every week. Because if they weren't sure on a question, I let them cheat off of me. And I only know about that because the teacher is like, so you got this question wrong. And I'm like, yeah, I wasn't sure on it. I had 2 answers. I went with my gut on it. And he's like, here's the funny thing. I'm going to draw out every other student who got the answer wrong. And he could trace the entire cheating chain that started from Devon Decker and just went all the way through to the other side of the classroom. And I'm like, oh God, this guy, like, all he has is football, right? I don't want Craig not to start football because he's having trouble in trigonometry. And he's like, no, that's noble. It's a noble thing. It's just, I finally caught you, so you can't do it anymore. And then I'm man. Like, and then instead of letting him cheat before and after class, I would talk through with him and any of the other guys on the team stuff that they weren't understanding.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
this is a
nothing
weird
beats
story.
being
I'm
in
so
a
sorry.
no, nothing beats being in a biology class and you're the only one in there that's not on the football team. Also, this class is being taught by the assistant football coach. So like
Oof, that's
ev- ev- that is definitely the like one of the weirder experiences I had in my life when I realized really quick how the world actually works for a lot of people. Um
yeah.
but yeah, as far as math classes go, I had the one like major level class of math that I remember from high school was geometry, and all I remember from that class are two things. One time where we took a test where everybody rebelled against the teacher because we were using this Chicago math system,
Mm-hmm.
and as I said, I've bitched about it before, but one of the biggest things about it is that it had consistent mistakes in its answer
Yeah, in the
sheets,
answer
like
key.
for its tests. One of this, so on this one, it was take the angle of a roof and it shows a house. So picture a house with a triangle sitting on top of a square, right?
Yeah.
And the triangle in this case much bigger than the square, and so it shows you that on the page. So it says grab this angle on the roof, and it points to the angle. So everybody takes the basically very acute angle from, let's say, the left side of the house, right? And the teacher is just like, yeah, so the answer to this is actually like more like 170 degrees, and everybody put like 40. And we were like, that's ridiculous. That's such a small angle. How is that 100? And he's like, well, no, no, no. You took it all as if it was just the angle on the triangle, but it wanted the angle in relation to the side of the house. And he did it and showed us how you got the number that they got. And we were like, that's not what that picture shows. That triangle goes so far beyond that edge. And it turned into this like weird battle with the teacher because even he admitted that if you did the math the way that 30 students did the math, yeah, then you would have all gotten it correct, but not a single one of you did it the way the book says to do it. And we were like, nah, because the book's fucking wrong. And it was one of those final moments that I had with that math series that I was just like done with you. And so like that sticks out in my mind. The only other memory I have from that math class is that time that a girl came in and 10 minutes into class, puked all over the floor, and we all realized that it was just all vodka. She had just come, just tanked, and just threw up everywhere.
Well, they don't call you the townies for nothing. Uh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You gotta set me up. I'm gonna spike it. So I'm gonna just finish two more, and then I'll get to roots, and then we'll get to less school memories. That's not true. I have a school memory that I need to share to tie this all together. That trigonometry course that I mentioned, that was the only preparation I ever got for college, because that teacher said to me, I don't give a shit about your homework. I'm going to judge you just on your tests. Specifically you, Devin, because clearly you don't want to be doing the homework, and you don't need to be. And guess what? That's what every class in college was.
Yeah, hopefully the rumors are true, but it sounds like more and more people are kind of coming around to the idea that homework is meaningless. It doesn't have any effect on kids' actual learning as far as we can like measurably tell, and all it does is cause stress.
Mm-hmm.
And like so there are more and more and more people that are turning away from it. Honestly, the biggest thing keeping homework in schools nowadays is parents who are just like, well, if a kid's not doing homework, are they really going to school? And it's just like, shut up. You haven't had a kid in school for 15 years. Get the hell out of here.
Well, also, what about the 6 hours they're spending in the penitentiary-style building?
Yeah.
Living by a schedule that, to me, I mean, one of my theories, completely unproven, I think a lot of people who go into teaching are just because they've been so institutionalized to the education system, and they wouldn't know what to do if they didn't have that backbone.
There's definitely an element of that. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So that was nice. Like, that actually taught me. But then that screwed me over in my pre-calc class. That was the only required course I had to take my senior year. In so much as, well, she also did a more adult, more college style grading, like, syllabus. And so I read the syllabus. Always read the syllabus, right? If the Say report has like one bit of advice for you, it is try to see the positivity in everything. Understand that every experience is worthwhile in some way. Even the worst experiences, you can gain something from them. But number two, with a bullet, is read the fucking syllabus.
Yeah. And to the end, my friends. To the end.
Because let me tell you, reading the syllabus a lot of the times is how I passed courses in college. Because I did have jobs and was paying my own way. So understanding that, like, homework has no bearing on my final grade, oh, I'm not going to kill myself to do homework then. That sounds...
I can't tell you how many like 12 to 15 page syllabi I got in grad school, and it was a breakdown of everything we're going to do this semester, and then on the last page is always a percentage breakdown of what everything matters to your grade, and you realize that of the 15 pages prior, like 10 pages of it is bullshit. Really just pay attention to the last like 4, and even then the last 4 is just breaking down the one book you really need to pay attention to.
I got a B in my costume design course, and I didn't do the last 2 projects.
Hey.
Because I looked at what each project was worth, and I'm like, oh, if I get perfect scores on the first 2 projects, my lowest score is thrown out, and then a 0 on the final project will still give me a B+. Yeah, I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do.
And never take shit from any professor that's like, that's not the point, you have to finish the work. Because, like, no. The point of college is to learn how to balance, like, your life, as we said earlier. Yeah. And if part of that balance means I have to blow off these last 2 projects in order to not go fucking, like, brain dead, then fine, that's your balance. Yeah. Any teacher that tells you otherwise is not teaching their class right.
And if any teacher tells you otherwise, this will get you into trouble, he said from experience. You can always point out to them, well, if that's the case, you probably should have put that in your syllabus. They don't like that. They don't like the whole, oh, I read your syllabus and I'm going to weaponize it against you. Only one professor in my entire career really enjoyed that. But yeah, so back pre-calc, senior year of high school, and I'm using the syllabus. I have an A in the course, but other people don't. Other people are not doing as well as me. And the teacher switched the grading schema halfway through the course. And she even took me aside and she's like, I have some bad news for you. People aren't doing very well in this course. You seem to be one of the only ones excelling with the material. So I'm changing the grading scheme. And under the new grading scheme, you'll have a D.
What? No.
And I'm like,
is a contract. A syllabi is a contract.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And she's like, yeah, so it's going to have to change how you approach this course. And I'm like, I had an A before. What? And she's like, them's the breaks, kid. So how I changed that, where homework started to be weighed more than tests or quizzes or literally anything else in the class, I would grab the homework assignment at the beginning of class and hand it in at the end of class. And that's how I would spend my 80 minutes. Which, like, again, that's a math class being like, you can teach yourself this on your own, Devon. You don't need a teacher. But speaking of wrong answers in the back of textbooks, I, who was currently a D student in the class, because, like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I just felt so overwhelmed that my third semester in my third quarter in my senior year, I'm suddenly failing a math class for the first time ever, just because. She comes to me and she's like, I have a question for you. Can you look at this problem that I'm doing? And that problem was master level calculus that she gave to a current D student in her class. And I solved the problem and I said, this is the answer. And she's like, that's what I got too. But the back of the book says it's this. And I go, well, if 2 people who understand the math, right, do the problem and get the same answer, and then the book is not what either of those people have, maybe it's the book that's wrong.
You know, it is possible. You know how many people get like their mind blown by the idea that a textbook may not be correct about something? Man, the number of people out there that assume that the written word is the law on a thing is too much. And I think that that's one of the big mistakes that a lot of people make about college and grad school and things like that, and science in general. I mean, we live right now in a time in which science is hotly contested at every education level, and like, I think people would just assume that because somebody comes out and says, I have done the research, this is the thing that I have gotten, I am writing it for this journal, now this journal has published it, that makes it true. Everybody is just like bows down to it at the altar of like of published written work. And they don't understand that like what everything you learn in college is now, just because somebody wrote it down doesn't mean it's true. like you have to then you have to look into it, you have to consider it, you have to look at other points of view. There's a possibility that there's different answers, and that's true even for math. That's the thing that people don't understand, is that math and sciences are just as prone to that kind of conflicting argument that the arts are. And people are just like, they don't want to believe that, because they've been told their whole life that science is facts, that math is facts, and math is math, and science is science, and you can't argue that. And like, that sucks. It sucks that like we teach people that way, that we ingrain in them that you can't argue with your teacher, that you can't say, I think this is incorrect, because of the fact that, you know, the way that the picture is drawn does not make it look that way, sir, is a legitimate conversation that two adults should be able to have, but we don't treat kids like adults like we should.
I mean, that's really my biggest issue with school, is that like, I'm not going to just give you respect, you're going to earn that respect from me. And the easiest way to do that is just to show me respect and not treat me like you think I'm an idiot person at the front of the classroom.
And that doesn't mean that we should give more credit to these fucking like Facebook scholars out there that are claiming that because they read one article, this is what they believe, and they found something that contradicts what Fauci said, so obviously he can't be trusted anymore. Like, no, quite the opposite of that. What this means is that people need to be taught critical thinking from an early point, and the ability to vocalize that critical thought. Like, you need to be able to not just be like question a thing, you need to then be able to talk about it with other people of the same, at that same intelligence level. You don't get to just like call out a thing and then just like nod your head and be like, yeah, I rocked it. Like, I looked up this mom in Utah that sells essential oils and she's figured it all out, so I've got all the answers. Like, no, you have to be able to question everything, but you also have to know when to trust in a thing eventually. like it's just but the problem is right now, in the ways in which people are questioning all of this stuff, is they're not doing it in good faith, and that sucks.
Yeah. And that's a good point. And I'm going to end the roots thing, and then we'll save. I have so many. I love dipping into my education files every so often. Tales from Devon's schooling. Mostly, and because schools are starting up again, right? Like, it's that time, it's that week. Yeah. Where everybody's going back. So, I'm in that mind. I'm in that academic mindset. And I'll save them. So I'll just say the third worst part about watching Roots in 8th grade with the entire 8th grade class. And that's, we got as far as, your name is Toby, I'm Kunta Kinte scene. And then we didn't watch any more of Roots. So, that's a weird message that you just sent to the entire 8th grade class at Coventry Middle School. Because, the next 3 hours of Roots, they're important.
Yeah.
Nope, he's defeated. That's the end of it. Maybe someday he'll get to host Jeopardy. Who can know?
Or not, considering how unfair the world still is.
I don't know. I don't want LeVar Burton to host Jeopardy. But that's because I watched him host Jeopardy. And I like LeVar Burton. I think he did a fine job at Reading Rainbow. I think he's good at presentation. He's not a game show host.
Yeah.
And that's the thing where think about Ghostbusters, where Dana Barrett talks about Peter Venkman and she's like, he's a game show host. And it's yeah, Peter Venkman invites you into the world while you're there. He criticizes you, but kind of you're in on the joke too, right? You're part of it. And right. LeVar Burton, it didn't feel that way. He didn't have that rapport that we certainly, after 35 some odd years with Alex Trebek, have come to expect from Jeopardy. But
there's a level of antagonism that a good host has to have, right? As you pointed out, Alex Trebek had that ability to kind of banter with people in a way that, was ribbing them, but at the same time, made them feel like it was, they were his best friend while he was doing it, right? Yeah. And that's true of all of the greats, Chuck Woolery and all of that, being able to, being able to give shit, right? Being able to shovel out shit, but not so much that you realize that it's making you sick, right? Like that's not the. It's a hard balance to make, and it's an interesting observation. Like I can't think of a really good game show that doesn't have a host that doesn't have a snarky host of some kind, right?
Right. And I mean, and Alexander Trebek, I'm sorry for that. I almost said Alexander Hamilton. I saved it at the end, but that admitted my mistake. Alex Trebek, like, he really was like this master of it. To this point, like, I would be upset in my room at the way that he would say, like, no, or that's incorrect. Like, you didn't write the question, Alex. You have the answer in front of you. Maybe dial it back just a little bit, guy.
Yeah, but that's where somebody like a Bill Nye becomes really interesting as an idea for a host of Jeopardy, right? Is like getting a person up there that can keep that air of he might have actually known that answer, actually, like, right?
Well, I mean, that's why when
he knows all of these answers, but he might have known that one.
That's why when they suggested like Ken Jennings, it made sense to me because yeah, the guy was on 74 consecutive episodes of Jeopardy. He's proven himself to me. Like I believe that he knows the answers. If he wants to get a bit of an attitude because I didn't know the name of the third Dirty Harry movie, he has that right. He has that luxury.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe it's an unhealthy thing to want out of these types of shows, but the fact that character has not evolved in the 50 years of television game show history, but the host having that mean streak in them, it always makes it just more watchable for me, for sure. And
well, I think that's why. I mean, the beauty of the game show, right? Totally not something I expected to talk about this week. I love this show. I love how alive and vitriolic the Say Report can be. Is that, like, Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, like, Pat Sajak's a fucking asshole, too. Like, why would you say P? That guy next to you just said P. There's no P's up there.
He's not like shaking a stick at him, like he's got like a spray bottle that he's like, no. Shake
like,
my no.
Pat Sajak is such an asshole. They need to give him Vanna White to be like the mom who's going to give you the cookie afterwards. Like, he just expects so much more of you, dear.
Oh man.
We have Oreos and we have Fig Newtons.
Can I get some orange slices backstage?
No, we don't do orange slices. Pat's allergic to citrus fruits. We actually think he just has scurvy and doesn't want it cured. But those two shows, specifically Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, which have felt like mainstays on like everyday television, and they have at least 30 years on both of them, right? They are half an hour long. So there's been a resurgence of game shows recently because it's reality TV and because, it's guaranteed advertising dollars with the fabulous cash and prizes. It's a smart play. But ABC has brought back all of these game shows, and all of those game shows are an hour long. Now, that doesn't mean that you're with the same guests, contestants for that hour. It's really 2 episodes, but instead of showing an episode of Card Sharks and then an episode of $100,000 Pyramid and then an episode of Supermarket Sweep, they decide, here's an hour of the match game. Here's an hour of the whammy show. What the Press Your Luck.
Luck. No whammies.
And that sucks. It, like, eventually I get fatigued.
Yeah.
Watching it for an hour.
Well, I think part of it is that they want their cake and to eat it too, as is always the case with network television. Whereas, like, they really want the hour-long game show fervor that you get in I mean, let's be blunt about this, England, Europe, right? Like, like there's something about that the hour-long game show element works really well. But then they don't want to go the full mile that those shows do and just have a rotating cast of contestants where it's meaningless, right? So, like, you think about something like 8 out of 10 Cats or Taskmaster or other shows that go to YouTube right now and they're fucking lighting YouTube on fire with the ways in which people are like getting back into this sort of stuff. I say this as somebody that had a roommate that was like super deep into QI when we were in college, and God love her for it, but we watched so much of it. But but there was this idea that like there's this thing is like they know that you're watching it for entertainment, so they have entertainers on as the contestants, quote unquote. So like the points don't matter, right? And that's what makes, and it works with Whose Line in a really interesting like crossover. It's one of the few times where they really keep the formula down to the point where they have the literal same guys that were on the British version on the American one, and it just works. But then in America we also love that idea of with the game show of it could be me, right? That idea that I want to imagine myself one day being up there and winning the car. So they try to please both concepts, the idea of the hour-long entertainment that keeps everybody captured, but also the dream that you could also one day be on this show, and they just don't work together. Like I don't want to I don't want to sit around for an hour and watch a bunch of people get questions wrong. Ellen, I'm sorry, I just don't want to do that.
I mean, I think the only one that really did it, and I will give all credit to it, is The Price is Right. Because really, that is two separate game shows that you watch. You watch the first half, you watch the second half, but then you have the Showcase Showdown, where the person who won episode 1 and the person who won episode A go head to head to see who's going to be the big winner of the day.
Well,
and that works.
Yeah, and the important thing about that to remember is you're talking about the difference between primetime TV and daytime TV. So that's also part of it. Is the reason that the Price is Right works is that during the day when I'm at work, when I'm getting my haircut, when I'm going to the grocery store, the Price is Right is just everywhere and on, and so I'm not really paying attention. I'm not invested in it so much as it's good to have background noise. And then there are people that do get invested in it because like we the same ways in which soap operas is daytime TV, they run forever, and it's because nobody's paying attention. So like insane shit can happen and nobody cares. But there are people that do get invested for sure. But enough places are open and available and having that on that it just works. So like in a weird way, like you kind of can't include Price is Right in the game show aesthetic because of the fact that primetime game shows versus daytime day shows are just a completely different animal, right?
True. I just wish that, like, I've watched 2 episodes of $1 Million Pyramid. It'd be interesting to see the two people go head to head now.
Oh yeah,
like
but I think a couple of years ago when the game show resurgence first started, there was a couple of moves by like Alec Baldwin and Jerry Seinfeld to kind of get in on that for NBC and do the whole we're just going to invite our friends on to just do it. So they did the what was it, like Newlywed Game or something like that. They did one of those like we're bringing back an old game thing. But what they then did is Jerry Seinfeld just put like a bunch of his like comedian friends on the actual panel. So it became like it became like a really easy way to just have an hour long for him and his friends to shoot the shit, and it was fun to watch. And it kind of worked, but it kind of fell away because we hadn't quite bitten into that like resurgence of the game show yet. Like it was before its time, really. If it came out this year, it'd be a huge hit. The idea of getting Jerry Seinfeld up there and then like Chris Rock and stuff like that to like sit around and make jokes at like people's expense, like I think would be gangbusters now. But it's too late. They tried it 10 years ago and it didn't catch on fire like it would now.
That's true. I mean, who knows? It could get a resurgence now that they see how big game shows are, and that, I mean, the big one for me, the one where I'm like, I need to step away from this, and I already only had like 1 foot left in the pool, but now they're drying on a towel, and I'm sitting in a chair doing something else, is the celebrity dating game, which tries to have all the fun of it's quirky people that you know. But playing the dating game. And is like, and they're not the they're the contestant, they're not the suitors. Like, yeah. I love, if you want to have just some fun on YouTube, look up Celebrity Suitors, the match game, like Steve Martin, when he was, not the match game, the dating game, when Steve Martin was just a suitor on the dating game. And that was because they cast actors to play those roles.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. It's just a strange sort of thing. And I don't know how talking about LeVar Burton from Roots. This is fun. I love tracing the thing. I have other things that I had planned to talk about. I'm going to stop it here, and I'm going to let Sejohn introduce a topic, though.
I mean, geez, man. Okay, all
Sorry,
right.
not to put you on the spot.
We just backed the segue off the top of the mountain, didn't we? But that was a dark joke. Why did I do that? But I guess if we were gonna talk about anything else this week, right? Like, there's been some. It's been really limited. I think last week I kind of admitted this, that like I'm kind of in a holding pattern until things really kick off with the fall season, between like movies coming out, TV shows starting, things like that. So I've just been kind of going through some backlog stuff in terms of video games and TV shows. Finished off the He-Man Revelations first half. For like the third time this week, because other people keep asking to like watch it, and I'm just like, hell yeah, let's watch it. So that's happened a couple of times. Went back in on some video game stuff, and I think I just talked last week about how I was doing some Human Fall Flat. I've been going back into some SteamWorld stuff. You know what I tried this week in terms of video games, and it just still doesn't click for me, although I made a revelation this week, and I'm mad nobody else ever pointed this out to me, is I tried getting back into the Bayonetta series this week. It was $20 for Bayonetta and some other Capcom game that they were like, or Sega game, I mean,
Sega.
Specifically Sega, because the thing that I never picked up on the first time I had tried Bayonetta is, how did I forget that it's a Sonic game? Like, I mean, like it is literally the world in which Shadow the Hedgehog becomes the main character of the Sonic series, and it evolves from that. And like literally like Shadow the Hedgehog with his fucking pistols at the end of Adventures 2, like coming down from the sky, and then like he turns into Bayonetta, because like Bayonetta the first game opens up with the funeral of Eggman, and then you learn to slow down time so that you can really quickly, as fast as possible, run around the board beating the shit out of things and stealing their coins. Like there's all of this shit, like they call them halos, but they are literally just rings. They are literally just gold rings that you're collecting, and like you're running around really fast, and then there's moments when time suddenly speeds up and you see yourself in fast motion, and like there's so much going on that I was just like, how did I miss that? This is just Sonic. This is when Shadow the Hedgehog didn't hit as like they wanted it to, when they couldn't make a more bad boy Sonic. They just decided like, all right, let's go like full left from this. And somebody there couldn't drop the torch. So they were just like, yeah, but we still need to have this. We still need to have elements of that.
I hate you. I hate you in this moment. I hate you in this moment for a couple of reasons. Reason numero uno is that, of course, nobody thought about it, because the discourse around the game is Bayonetta is Sega's version of Devil May Cry. There's a reason why you thought it was a Capcom game and not a Sega game, and that's because we have been conditioned by the media to look at Bayonetta and say, oh, it's Lady Devil May Cry. But it, as the spiritual successor to the Shadow the Hedgehog game that nobody liked, makes so much sense, and it completely like takes the wind out from my argument why I won't play Bayonetta. Because like I played the demo of Bayonetta and I enjoyed the shit out of it. The fighting is really good, it's tight, it's responsive, I enjoyed it. But then what I absolutely hated was the ranking system. Like, you got a B on this level. And I'm like, well, fuck you too, game. Right? Like, what the fuck?
You say that, but you're somebody that avidly plays the Devil May Cry series.
Right, exactly. But I didn't play the Devil May Cry series until Devil May Cry 5.
That's fair. That's fair. We did talk about you discovering that series. Yeah.
Like, that's a thing where, like, I had played through Devil May Cry 1 because I got it on PlayStation 3 as a gift. And I enjoyed my time with it, but, like, the rating system was there, and I'm like, oh, I don't really like it. But then playing it in 5, I'm like, oh, the rating system doesn't matter as long as I'm having a good time. And I never got, because the demos don't really have that feature as part of it, that you get to level up your character and unlock moves and unlock ways to keep your combo meter going that aren't necessarily hitting things. So, like, achieving an S rank is not some far-flung, like, possibility. It's very doable once you've played the game enough to, A, master the game, but B, unlock the upgrades that are like, yeah, just keep hitting the L1 button and your combo meter keeps going until you fight stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the first game, like, it just play it on easy. If anybody out there is going to play it, just fucking play it on easy, because like you feel that need to be like, well, I'm going to play it at least on normal, and that is the thing that's killing me about it, is that the curve on it is so unforgiving, and it's at that time when get good video game attitude was at its worst. So like, fuck it, like it's just not. It's not worth the aggravation in that sense. But if you throw it on easy and then just go into it and just have a good time, like you're saying, it becomes a much better experience, because you can eventually get good at that series. It takes a hot second. And so, man, it's wild going back to it now and seeing it, but like, no joke, like I started playing it, and the second that they talk about Eggman, and I was like, oh, that's funny, Sega, good reference. And then all of a sudden I'm running around collecting rings, and I'm like, wait a second, and I'm building up speed power and then releasing it, and I'm just like, wait a minute, wait a hot fucking minute. And then I'm looking at her like flipping around, blowing away people with the gun, and then like jumping back and then like kicking them in the face, and I'm just like, she's literally Shadow the Hedgehog.
What's the name of the beast that she works with? That creates her suit, her Venom, but it's not called Venom. Isn't it called Shadow?
Oh no, don't do that to me. I'm trying to remember now, because this was at the beginning of the week, and I hit that wall again where I was just like, I'm still not doing good at this. I don't think it might
be Shade or something like that. I feel like it's related to that, which just like further would support this conspiracy theory of yours that is just the Shadow the Hedgehog successor, which is crazy to me. But then, like, that's the thing, is as much as I like Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, they are games that I played on GameCube eventually and enjoyed immensely. I never could get past the whole ranking system, and I've come to find out that's very Sega. Like, every Sega game has this rating, and we're going to rank how well you played the game sort of thing. Like, even down to, like, Streets of Rage 4, which wasn't done by Sega, it was done by Dotemu, but it's got it judges how well you played the game and the level, because they're trying to get into that Sega headspace. Sega! Sorry, I felt like it was necessary. And thinking of it along the lines of a Sonic Adventure game, Bayonetta becomes much more intriguing to me. He admitted.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, there's so many games that I want to play right now. I feel like I'm overwhelmed with games, and then what I do is I just fall back on Avengers, because I have a new character to level up and everything. B, I finally completed one character's challenge card set. Right? I did it in a year, because the game came out in September 4th, I believe. So within a year, I was able to full max out a character, including their challenge card set. It was Black Widow. It felt pretty good. And then also, it's double XP until September 2nd. So, like, all these characters that I would never play as, like, it feels pretty good to be able to get their levels up at least.
Yeah.
And like, it's not learning new things. It's something I'm comfortable with. So like, congratulations, Crystal Dynamics. You found a game that was like able to be a security blanket for me. Still not a particularly great game. I'm very upset about the Omega Adaptoid mission, where like, I really want to do it, but you need a strike team of 4 people. And I don't have anybody who's like at the required level for that mission who I'm friends with. And you need a strike
What's the required
team.
Level?
150 power level. You have to have maxed out characters.
How long do you think it would take to get there?
Depends. If you power level the way that I did, by like just playing the forest vault over and over again until you max out to 140 items, like, that's the fastest way to do it. But I don't know. It also seems like they've changed that algorithm, because I've been getting a lot more items on the same level as the item I'm currently collecting, and not higher ones.
Okay.
Like, I'm not real happy about it. But But Sejohn, I understand. I think I hear what you're saying. I think I hear what you're like reluctantly willing to offer. Then we would still need to find two other people
Yeah, yeah.
who had a power level 150 person, and you can't just like randomly matchmaker into it. You need to have a strike team of 4 people in order to select the mission. And I'm just like,
man.
but like that's all I need to complete the Kate Bishop story
Yeah,
is to beat that one thing.
it's like it really does harken back to the days of looking for group, right? Like that
Yeah.
idea that you could just go online and find people that were in this exact same situation. It just the and it's not that that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, people do it all the time for Destiny and things like that. It's just that it's so hard to put yourself out there and admit to people that you're you're at that point in Avengers. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to do that just because I don't want to then deal with a bunch of assholes like being able to contact me and be like, "Well, are you playing Avengers?"
Here is the truth about it. The big issue with Avengers is there are not a lot of us who are still playing the game. I tell people that like, oh, the War for Wakanda stuff came out, was really good, and they're like, oh, I tried it, I'm done with it, and I'm like, yeah, but like it's evolving, it's like a live service, and it's stupid, but like you don't have to pay money, right? You bought the game. That's sort of one of the good things about fee to play as opposed to free to play is that they do try to give you a complete experience without having to spend on the baubles.
Look, I can admit that in terms of the ways that their payment system is set up, I think that they do a much better job of treating their already paid in customers better than say a Destiny does, right? Like just to keep pulling on that thread. But I will also say that I think that's just due to the circumstances of them not doing so hot.
Yeah,
I think
that's
that if
true.
they had, I think that if they had come out swinging and people loved the game, they would have taken advantage of that and you would have been paying a lot more. Like the War for Wakanda would have suddenly been a $15 add-on, not just a free thing. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely elements of they've done a lot of make goods with this game that make it worth it in a way that they wouldn't have if they didn't feel they had to make good.
I mean, you bring up an interesting point there. If the demo had gone over better, if people had enjoyed the demo, I don't think the all like DLC will be included with the cost of admission would have been a thing that happened.
You would have gotten Hawkeye. You would have gotten Hawkeye. Maybe Kate Bishop as well. But I don't know if past that, if you would have been getting this all of this stuff for free. Plus all of the updating that they've done, the quality of life stuff that they've changed.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have bothered if more people had been playing on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's interesting. It truly is an interesting thing. And what's more interesting is that the discussion has turned to Avengers 2 as opposed to keeping this existing environment alive.
Yeah, you know, it was hard for me going between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, like getting over that hump of I was promised that this was going to be a thing that like I was going to buy into and I was going to have this character and also like to that point, like the idea that I had spent this entire time in this story narratively, like being buying in emotionally to what is going on in this world, and then now suddenly you're going to come in and just like pull the rug out from under me. And like that being said, Destiny 2 was exactly what Destiny needed to get back on its feet, and now it's a fucking monster, right? So like in a lot of ways, Avengers 2 might be exactly what Avengers needs in order to really kind of like push itself forward, but it runs a huge risk here because people like you who have bought into Avengers, they've got to do right by your people in order to make Avengers 2 even viable, and on top of that bring in and like yes, it happened once in like the move from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2. I don't know if that can happen twice in the world. Like I just don't know if Crystal Dynamics has it in them.
I think the problem is it happened once. That's a trailblazer move. Anything else that comes after it is compared to it. It's not even happening. It's speculated, and we're sitting here comparing it to Bungie going from Destiny to Destiny 2.
Well, I think it's because anybody out there that wants the game to succeed in any way feels like that's probably the next move, right? Like my position. I don't hate the game. I think the game has so much potential, and we had some fun times when we were playing it. The problem is that I could never get into that game enough to justify doing it on my own, leveling stuff, dealing with some of the other bullshit that exists in that game. The ways in which it captured you, it also got its hooks in me, just never enough to make it mean anything, right? So I do want to go back to that game and enjoy myself, and I do want there to be but now there's this whole idea that if I try and get into Avengers now, I feel like I'm getting in late to the game, right? Where like everybody else playing it is like you, like super into it. So like if I'm not that, then there's almost like a level of entry, right? There's like a that I can't get past. So the way to combat that for me is to introduce Avengers 2. Suddenly now we're resetting everything. We're all back to zero, but now I can hop on the boat. So that is appealing to me. So I think there are enough people like me that want Avengers to succeed, but realize that like if it's going to now, we all have to kind of come together and start from the beginning again. Right, and so that's where like this talk comes from, is I think that more than speculative, I think it's hope. I think that there are people out there saying like I will get on board this train, but I need it to stop at the next station. Like
I can agree with that. Unfortunately, as disappointed as it is to like go with you hat in hand and be like, I am hoping for this. It's true. And let me tell you something. Even though I have like a level 50, 150 power character in this game, which is something I never thought was going to happen, because in those early days, just how difficult it was to level up or to make any progress. And it really was like someone saying, this is what you need to know to make this game fun. And like, oh my God, it worked. I can't believe it worked. I was going to be cynical about this. The issue is whenever I go into like matchmaking, right, or do a quick match, I'm invariably assigned with other level 50, 150 characters, and I feel like such a poser. Like I feel like I don't really belong here, right? I got here by doing it my way, and I'm pretty good at the game, but like you're a power level 150 Iron Man. You're actually a one-man army. I'm sitting here as Black Widow who like runs around the field and shoots pistols at people. You're like doing bombing runs. You're dropping napalm on the enemies. And I'm like, I'm here too.
yeah,
I shot that guy.
I mean,
Did you see me
well,
shoot that guy?
yeah, that's also another thing about this, is that they're inviting people into a world to live in it and be in it, and it's a living, breathing thing. And they're hitting something that comics and now comic movies have kind of struggled with, but we figured it out, is like, how do you make somebody like Batman still exist on the same playing field as somebody like Superman, right? So in this case, how do you get somebody like Black Widow to exist alongside the Hulk and still be a meaningful like force on the field, right? And the movies do that by allocating screen time. The comics do that by explaining all sorts of reasons. Like there's all these different storylines in which the Hulk loses his powers, they get separated. For some reason, Black Widow has like this kind of thing going on in this storyline, even though she's never had it before. She suddenly has this ability, right? Or like so the comics just kind of just go off the fucking rails with it, but they can get away with it because that's what comics have always done. The movies have reined that in a little bit, but as I said, like they get to say, well, we're going to play this game, but we're only going to play with these toys for an hour and a half, and then after that, we're going to go put them away and we're never going to think about it again, right? That you can't, in the video game realm, like you can't do that. Like it's that idea that like in a lot of the same way, it's that idea like when we went from 2D animation to 3D animation and we suddenly had to figure out as like video game creators and video game players, like what does it mean when I can turn around and look at the backside of the rock? Because it used to just be that all they had to do was just make the front side and everything was good. But now that I could look at it from all sides, suddenly we had to start developing whole new ways of playing, whole new ways of making, whole new ways of existing within those worlds. And so like I don't think that Crystal Dynamics has done a very good job of figuring out how to make this Marvel world work in in a multiplayer experience like this multiplayer RPG. Because if you, as somebody that has put this much work into creating this character, goes out into the field with everybody else, and you still feel like you don't belong there, then they have failed you. Like you should feel at this point that you know all of the like ins and outs of this character, and you are just as formidable as any of these other characters. And if you don't feel that way after the amount of time that you've spent with this character, that is exactly the kind of shit where I'm just like, they don't got it yet. They haven't figured it out.
I mean, I will commend them, right? Everything you just said about like trying to even the playing field, their suggestion and way of trying to do that was introducing three other heroes who are kind of like stuck on the ground and use projectiles with the two Hawkeyes and now T'Challa.
Yeah, but imagine like are there sniper rifles in this game?
No.
For like imagine that ability with Black Widow, right? To be able to stay back and say, okay, you guys go in, like you guys tank, you guys are in there. I literally am gonna sit back here in the safety of this nest and like take out guys, right? Or like if it comes to a heist, like Hulk literally can't get through this door unless somebody like Widow is there to crawl through the vent, like things like that like making significant like storyline stuff matter is great, and you can do that in a single player experience, which is I think part of the reason why the other thing that goes on with this game is that you talked about very early on how that single player gameplay experience and the story really is what hooked you, and like, okay, they need to somehow bring that out into the multiplayer world, and they never figured that out for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's as simple as this mission can only be played by these heroes. Like, it's a heist. You can use the Hawkeyes, you can use Black Widow, you can use Steve, or you can use now Black Panther. But like Thor, Hulk, Iron Man, they're too big for what this is.
Well, and that's a
then
great start, but that starts to feel real cheap after a
Yeah.
while, where suddenly you're like, well, I have all these characters I just can't use.
Right.
And I wouldn't disagree with that critique. I'm not saying it's impossible, but like that is their job as the creators of this game is to construct those exact scenarios and not make me as the player feel like I'm being cheated out of some part of the game.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's strange. And I guess it's on my mind a lot, and I know that it's a different developer. I understand that. But Guardians of the Galaxy is coming in October, and it looks so much like the Avengers game, but it is a single-player experience.
Well, and there's a strategy element to the ways in which you control the team, and there's exactly this whole idea of the scenario where you can see where there's going to be moments where as Peter you're going to have to turn to Drax and say like bring down the house, big boy, or you're going to have to turn to Groot and be like, can you sneak through this window, right? Like there's clearly going to be there. It's so easy to see how each member of that team fits into that kind of like that team dynamic in a way that which. Like, I don't see that necessarily with Avengers. I don't see the ways in which not only is it just that she runs around shooting pistols, right? But Natasha running around on the field shooting pistols feels like she is being expected to achieve the same goals as somebody in an Iron Man suit or as Bruce is expected to, right? Like, it's weird because I should also, and this kind of gets to what you were saying, like there should be like case specific reasons to use these characters. I feel like there's nothing in the game that makes me think I need Natasha for this. There's nothing in the game that makes me think I need Hawkeye for this. And like, I haven't touched the game in a while properly, so maybe they have introduced that stuff, but they haven't done a good job of explaining it if they have, right?
I mean, so you mentioned the sniper rifle thing. You do get a high caliber pistol as one of the upgrade choices for Black Widow. But it's still a pistol. Like, I've been able to shoot stuff from far off with it, but it's not like having that scope and using it. But where I find I excel as the character that I chose to put the time and effort and energy into is flying things or like turrets. Things that like are out of the way to hit. So, like,
Yeah.
it's difficult for Hulk to just punch something that's flying, but I can aim and I can shoot and kill things with my
Yeah.
pistols. Like,
Do they
I'm
make
more of a
it
vertical fighter, while they're more
right?
horizontal.
Do they make it clear that there are vertical positions then that you would be advantageous to you? So like, do you hit a point in the field where you realize like Hulk should go north while you go up, right? Like does like are there these moments where you feel like, oh, I couldn't do this if I was playing anybody else right now?
The only moments that happen like that are when I come to doors that it
Yeah.
says, you need a hero who can smash this door. And I'm like, I have grenades. You know what grenades could do? Blow up this door, probably.
Yeah.
Like, that's what
No.
would happen in the real world. The
Yeah.
real world.
I
Like,
yeah, yeah. No,
well, like,
I
but like,
know.
if like the SWAT team comes up, like, oh, we can't do it. We can't get our battering ram in here. No, they have charges to blow the door up. And like, don't give Black Widow a specific thing where she throws grenades as her power attack, and then be like, yeah, but she can't like put 2 grenades in strategic places on this wall and blow it up. That wouldn't be realistic in this game of green giants.
Yeah, but like to look at other kind of games in this field, like the like Fallout 76, but to that point, Elder Scrolls Online, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there are parts of those games that are just completely barred off from you, depending on the choices that you make about your character. So like literally, like you start off like Elder Scrolls Online, you start off and you get to pick one of 3 areas in the quote unquote world where you start, and like you have to level up like fucking crazy if you want to go to any of the other worlds. Like it takes a while to do that. And yeah, like as I said, like you can argue like, well, I feel like I paid this money for this game and I can't even get there with this character yet. And it's like, but they do such a good job of giving you a reason why your character, because of the choice that you made, is in this part of the world and can't travel to that part of the world, that you never think about that really, like until you get to the point where you can travel, or God forbid you jump on with a friend and you realize your friend picked the wrong faction and so you don't get to see them and you're just like, God damn it, I got to start a new character just so I can play with you. And like that happens, right? But they do a really good job of narratively making reasons of making you forget that there's these parts of the world you can't get to yet, right? Imagine that in Avengers, if you started with Natasha and for the first like 20 levels, even on the multiplayer level, you were only in these areas that only like people like Natasha or Clint could be, like. And I feel like people would give them a lot of shit for that, but at the same time it would really build up the importance of being able to play as those characters, versus the fact that like everything you do in that game has to be accessible and playable if I'm just the Hulk. So that means that everything you do in that game is kind of catered to those bigger than life characters, that when you play these smaller characters, it doesn't feel great.
I think the biggest misstep with this game is that you are always the Hulk when you are playing as the Hulk.
Yeah.
It would be very interesting if there were times where you had to become Banner.
Yeah.
Like, because the Hulk can't walk through this hallway. You're too big. So then you hit a button and he calms down and now he's Bruce Banner, and now you have to walk through and blend in and not like let him get too hurt. Like,
Well,
make
part
it
of it is that you're always at
alive.
war. Right,
Yeah.
right. But part of it is like in this story, you're always going to war. There's never a moment where you're walking into a place that is full of just normal people, right?
Right.
Except for literally like the first couple of moments of the story when you're on the when you're on the hovercraft, right? Like, but other than that, like you don't have to become Bruce and go into hiding. Imagine if Bruce, like if you got to play as him in a hoodie walking around a city and you're like the whole point was to not get noticed,
Yeah.
right? Like elements like that just are non-existent. It
Or,
falls prey to the worst kind of mistakes that anybody outside of the Avengers thinks about when they think about the Avengers, and they just think of them going up against the big bads. They think about them going up against the Ultrons and the Thanoses and you know, like they don't think about those moments when they're not like kicking the shit out of everything. And that is, unfortunately, those are the moments where characters like Steve and Clint and Natasha shine, because they are humans in this world dealing with the fact that they are living up against gods.
well, I mean, the whole reason the Avengers start, right? The first 3 issues of the Avengers is we need a team to take down the Hulk, right? So you
Right.
look at Ant-Man, the Wasp, Clint's not there yet. Steve's not introduced until the 4th issue. So Iron Man and Thor, right? And Thor's like kind of the most fantastic element that's present, right? And even then, it's just like, you fought the Hulk before. That's kind of why you're here. So we can use our technology to try to, defeat him. Because you, as a god of thunder, you didn't do so well, Thor.
Right.
And also, I mean, like, you have all these items and stuff where, like, Natasha has guns. Or, like, you have, like, throwable explosives. When you're playing as Bruce, right? Like, give him a different moveset. That where, like, he needs to stay calm, but still be able to fend for himself. Like, you stay out of the fray until the Hulk is needed.
Yep.
Like,
I will give credit here right now to Avengers, a year after its release, that we are sitting here still trying to fix it.
I know.
Clearly there is an element to this game that has us both, right? You a little bit more than me, but clearly I am there too. And, like, so credit to this game that has never quite gotten on its feet, is still got me interested in it.
Yeah.
And, like, that's the one thing that this game really has going for it, is there is something there. There is a spark of something there. And I think that, again, to go back to what we were saying earlier, that is what really has everybody kind of pushing for an Avengers 2, is because the whole thing, it just needs to just take a second to just take a breath and start again. And an Avengers 2 would do that, much like we saw with the Destiny 2.
Yeah, let's take this spark and set the forest afire. Which is just a terrible thing to say. Moving on, I'd like to address the fact that you've watched Masters of the Universe Revelations 3 times.
Yes.
This week, I'm going to finish Masters of the Universe Revelations. I've watched the 2nd episode. I will admit that it is better than the 1st episode, though I guess just by the nature of who I am and this show, I really think you start with the 2nd episode. You don't start with the 1st episode. You immerse us in a world of mystery where, like, as a fan of He-Man before, I'm noticing things. And I'm understanding things. And then I'm like, oh my god, there's no magic? Why is there no magic? Adam is dead, right?
I think the mistake there, though, is assuming that this is, like, this is literally just the next season of He-Man.
Right. And
so if you were watching it that way, the 1st episode is too important. Just like everything is set up in that 1st episode.
Right, but I'm not saying you don't eliminate that episode. I'm saying you shuffle it to 3rd in the pack. You have Jackie Briggs, because I don't know her name in the show, but she is Jacqueline Briggs from Mortal Kombat 10. Andra. Her name's Andra. You have her as the framing device asking Teela what happened. How did we get here? And then the 1st episode plays out. So you do some interesting world building. I haven't gone further than that 2nd episode.
No. Yeah, I understand. And also, yeah, so you may change your tune depending on, because you're about to get into basically like the once you pop, you can't stop part of the season. But I will say this, considering the backlash that this show received, and not a huge one, but there was a noticeable backlash of people who complained that in order to, like, it's that I'm going to use feminist arguments in order to make a super upsetting anti-feminist viewpoint of, like, God forbid that you have female characters in this show, but I'm going to say it couched in, well, why did they have to do what they did are we just going to spoil He-Man? I guess we should just
I said that Adam's dead. I mean,
yeah, yeah. So, like, but the idea that they had to remove the male character in order to elevate the female character feels like that's not fair. Why not just create just a different show with female leads?
Oh, you mean
and it's like,
She-Ra?
fuck that, because
they did that, guys.
Also,
sorry.
But also, the show is not called He-Man and Masters of the Universe. It is actually Masters of the Universe. It's really interesting to think about other characters besides fucking He-Man in this world. And I think the show does a really good job of elevating all characters, not just the female ones. But that was like the ways in which people focused on it, right? So considering the backlash that they got for that, I also don't want to think about what the backlash would have been if they just opened up this show with just no He-Man. I feel like what they attempted to do, whether or not it worked, is they really did want to try and bring you in as somebody that was there for the He-Man and then stayed for the party, right? Like you showed up and then this thing happens and suddenly He-Man is not there, and it becomes the question of, well, then what is the show I'm about to watch? And I mean, like, and I say that as like that is exactly what I felt. Like I had no idea that was what the setup for this show was, and so like watching that first episode and then it ending with the loss of He-Man, like got me. And like,
okay, but time out, Zach Morris style. But you could still talk and move up about the cabin. It doesn't end with the death of He-Man. And that's honestly my biggest problem with this show. It ends with Teela throwing a tantrum. And that was why I didn't want to continue with the series.
That's not fair. I wouldn't call it a tantrum.
But that's what it felt like.
No.
I mean,
that feels really reductive and really shitty.
That's fine, and that's okay. But that's how it presented to me, because she's so upset about this stuff in the face of two parents who just lost their child. Like, it just feels like there's a time and a place where she can be upset about this. This is not that time, and this is not that place. And it made me like not.
Everyone in her life had been lying to her, and she is allowed to feel that feeling, dude. Like that is
right.
So,
I'm not saying she's not allowed to feel that feeling. I wish that's how the second episode opened and not how the first episode ended, because it really took away from the loss of He-Man and that question of what comes next. Like that's it for me. That's it for me. Is like, I get it. And if I had then like knew Teela away from Adam and away from He-Man and on her own, and then you tell me that happens, I'm connected to that character and like I feel for her more. And I'm connected to Teela from watching the show when I was younger, but that whole thing just felt so like dense. Like this is not the way that a person would react in this moment. Like I know, like I understand that people have emotions and they feel things in different ways. It just didn't feel like Teela in that moment at all.
I will say this. I think maybe the better way to say it is it feels like that turn to you seems to not feel earned, but I think that's a really dangerous rope to start trying to like walk across, because like knowing what the rest of the story is and knowing that is all exposition, like it in a weird way, like you're giving a lot more weight to that moment more than just it had to happen. And like I appreciate that you wanted to maybe live in that moment more and to like separate it out, but like it is so it is so reductive to say that she threw a tantrum, because one of the other things about He-Man that I think is really important, and the reason why I think it is really important to talk about the idea that they do then turn it into, for an episode or two, a female-led experience, but not just female, but also they explore other sources of homosexuality, is that one of the big things that goes on with He-Man, and one of the things that I think that this version of He-Man does really well, is He-Man has, outside of its own fandom and outside of its own existence, always had this very strong gay icon element to it. Like with no holds barred, the idea that it is a small twink-like figure that turns into a leather daddy when he calls down his power. And then like on top of that, there's all of these stories about him and his relationships with other male characters in that world. And homoeroticism has existed in He-Man from the get-go. And the fact that they remove that element in this, and then they introduce it in, and they introduce the idea of a female-led homoerotic story in the second episode and all that, is really cool. And like the ways in which it kind of pays tribute to like the attitude that had always been there with He-Man, just in a different way, and the ways in which that evolves. I also think it's really important to think about the ideas of which Adam's hiding a secret from somebody, and the ways in which Teela was an ally to him that didn't know his secret, and the ways in which she feels left out, is also a really interesting and really important story, because as a viewer, I feel like as a viewer that is also considers themselves an ally, the idea that they are telling a story about an ally that feels betrayed because they weren't in on the secret, and she has to learn how to come to terms with the fact that it was not necessarily her secret to know. Like, I don't disagree that her reaction in that moment feels harsh, and you can call it throwing a tantrum. I can get on board with that for this conversation, but the ways in which she then has to learn how what she felt in that moment wasn't fair is part of the story. So this is once again one of those cases where I think you're supposed to kind of feel that way, and you take that as a sign of like you feel gross, but I think that's what the story wants you to feel. Because part of her character arc is coming to terms with the fact that feeling that she had in that moment was not necessarily a fair one to have.
Okay. I guess here's the issue that I have with it. Here is the main issue that I have with it. We watched the first episode of He-Man a month and a half ago, and because of that ending, neither Dale or I wanted to continue with the series. It was just so alienating the way that they had her act at the end of that. And to us, like I want to
individual, like you're allowed to feel that. Yeah. So, like you don't like it. Okay, that's fine. But there are plenty of people that like were on board because of that, because of that moment. Like I'll be honest, that moment is the reason I kept watching. Yeah. Because at that moment I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I'm watching this show because I heard Mark Hamill was Skeletor, and then you just like took him off the board. So what is going on? And then that moment happened and I was like, oh, okay, this is where we're going with it. So like, I'll be honest, that moment for you that was alienating was the moment for me where I was like, oh, I need to watch the next episode immediately.
See, and that's cool. That's interesting. But the only reason why I went back to the series is because it's 5 episodes. So like, I'm not committing to 22 episodes. I'm not committing to anything. I can watch these 5 episodes, and then in giving it its fair shake, right, in giving it the 4-episode test plus 1, I can make a decision on if I want to stay on board or not. But honestly, if that were just the introduction episode, it pushed me away so hard. Because it did feel like we're going to finally tell a story about He-Man without He-Man in it. And like that just didn't feel like the way to establish Teela as a character.
You have this really fascinating ability to read exactly what the creator wants you to read, and for that to be a turnoff for you. Like, there's so many times that we talk about video games and movies where you're just like, well, they made me really not dislike this character in this moment, and like, yeah, they do. Like, yep. Like, and it's fine if that's not your bag. That's not your bag. But like, what you're saying is like the point. Like, yep, she kind of does a thing in that moment that is important to her as a character, and the ways in which she reacts, and the ways in which she alienates not just you, but also her father and Cringer and Orko and Adam's parents. Like the entire thing is about how she in that moment reacts and chooses to turn away, and about how that may not have been the right decision. So like, yep.
So again, I think that like, if you build a character that we have some connection to and then show that, it goes a bit further. That's it. I just think that's where I'm coming from.
Because the other thing is that the whole episode, in a weird way, like they make it seem like the B plot, but you realize in rewatching it's the A plot, is the entire thing is also about her ascension to Master at Arms. So like, she is also kind of the main character. So Adam's loss and Adam's parents are actually kind of like not as important as you. That's the other thing, is that you're really, is in saying that you feel like she didn't earn that moment. It's putting a lot more weight on the male character and Adam's story, when this is not his story. So like, it feels really gross.
So
to me
you say I'm saying that she doesn't. It's not that she doesn't earn that moment. It's just that like, in front of the grieving parents right now, like, just take a beat. Just take a beat. Like, try to have empathy for them, and then like, go outside and feel your anger and your emotions about it, like alone with Orko and Cringer.
that is a level of subtlety that old He-Man
Would
would
never
never
have.
have had. Right.
Yeah.
So like for an episode that is so heavily invested in making sure that you realize that, oh, this is old school He-Man, you're asking for something that the series eventually grows to, but you're asking for it right up front. You're asking to eat the main course when we're only on the appetizer, baby. Like you're expecting everything at once in that episode, and I don't think that that's fair to what that show is trying to do.
Right. And we've talked about it before, that like streaming shows approach being a streaming show very differently from how other shows have to do it. I think where I'm also coming towards it is I wish that subtlety was established in the first episode, maybe just a little bit better. Right? Like, because this is what you're telling me what the show is going to be and what to expect from the show. And like, if this is what the show is going to be, I'm not on board for this.
Right. But you are the first person to always admit that you should give a show 4 episodes before you really make a judgment call like
and
that.
That's why I'm watching more of it
on the pilot. And here you are on the pilot saying no. Like, right? Like, you know better than anybody. You've like, written the dissertation on the 4-episode trial.
Understand that this episode had me. I'm like, I'm a He-Man fan for life, right? Ghostbusters who? And then that moment happened and I'm like, oh, how did they hurt me so? How did they bring me into this world? How did they have me like, yeah, Teal is gonna be the master at arms, woman at arms, and like Duncan is stepping down, and all of this insane knowledge that I have in my mind because in 11th grade I wrote a song called You'll Never Storm Castle Grayskull. And like, so I did research and now all of these things live in my head. I see Clamp Champ and I'm like, holy shit, Clamp Champ? As Dale's like, that looks like Mike Tyson. And I'm like, that's the joke! You got the joke of Clamp Champ! Like, and then that happens and I'm just like, oh man, you tricked me, show.
Like, the other thing that episode does is, there's a bunch of people around me that have asked to watch it since, you know, like a couple of us watched it and really liked it, and other people have asked. People who are not He-Man fans. So, and they were like, I don't know if I really want to watch He-Man. But then watching that episode and seeing that, they were just like, yeah, fuck He-Man and his family. So there's also that element to it too. That is a very different sect of the like of people and a very different conversation. But
So it also talks to bias in a lot of ways, and like experiential bias and all of that, because if it were a situation where I was the only one, like Dale and I watched that show and I'm like, well, that was awful at the end, but Dale's like, no, like if Dale had all of your viewpoints, then like I could have definitely been cooled and calmed, and you know, more islands would grow from the magma that's flowing into the ocean. But instead, when it's 2 people that were like, the fuck was that? All we did was tear it down. All we did was look at that show and begin to tear it down. Which is why, like, I'm happy that cooler heads have prevailed and we're going back to try the full series, at least all of part 1, to see if maybe we judge too harshly. But it's an interesting thing about how if you're in an echo chamber, like, it only strengthens.
Yeah, well, I mean, and maybe that's what it is that I've had the benefit of talking to literally dozens of people about this. Like, it's weird in a lot of ways. I didn't really think about this until we had this conversation, but this is kind of the first thing coming out of COVID where I've gone to like parties and talked about it, right? Like I haven't been able to have this opportunity with movies or any other television show in a long time. So like, the other thing that, and you know, this will speak to my bias about it, is that I am doubly enjoying the conversations about this because I haven't been able to go out to parties and talk like this about a show in a year and a half, 2 years. So there's also that element for me. And like, and so, you know, like I said, like if you're going to feel that way about it, like that's fine. Just like, I beg of you to like, to consider the fact that like, this show is hitting on all cylinders for so many people. Old He-Man fans, new He-Man fans, like people that came to He-Man because of Netflix's She-Ra. Like there's so much going on in this show that it deserves to at least be watched, to be talked about, and not just watch the first 30 minutes that are literally like become such minuscule exposition. Like Kevin Smith talks about when he came to this project that he wanted to treat He-Man like Shakespeare. So you are literally in Act 1 out of 5. And it's always a 5-act structure, man. This is like walking away from Hamlet and being like, I don't know, he left in the end, so I don't know if I could go back for the next act. And it's just like, no, like, yeah, I get it. He got into a boat and ran away, but that's just the setup.
I don't know. I don't want to watch Ophelia. I want to follow this Hamlet guy. Well, maybe it's going to follow Hamlet in Act 2. Nah, it doesn't seem that way. Doesn't seem like it's going to follow Hamlet in the show called Hamlet.
Yeah, you know, I cannot disagree that it is a powerful moment, and if it made you feel disgust and grossness, like I don't know, maybe it's that, like, this is not. I'm gonna stop aiming this sword just at you, right? Like, I feel like so many people out there are always so quick to see 2 seconds of a thing and be like, bleh, right? And it's the trailer syndrome. It's the first episode issue. It's the reason that we talk about the idea of giving a show more than an episode or two to really kind of get your bearings on it, is because of this idea that just like you haven't lived in it. You don't have that. You don't have that understanding of the world that could still, and a lot of people hear us say that kind of shit and they think, well, I'm not going to like everything, guys. And I get that. The point is that if you're gonna not like a thing, like, you should taste it. You should really embrace it, and then talk about the reasons why it doesn't work for you. Because I would love to have this conversation about this version of Teela and whether or not you think it plays. But I want you to know what this version of Teela is and her reaction in that moment and why it worked for me then, and honestly, in retrospect, it makes total sense, because, like, the ways in which she feels betrayed by everyone, including Adam's parents, and let's be honest, Adam's dad is fucking useless. He was in the old show and he still is. I've got no love for him, so I don't care if she reacts.
He's Diedrich Bader. They fucking played on my love of Diedrich Bader in that moment. That's the problem. I love Diedrich Bader. He could do no wrong. 2 chicks at the same time.
What I think would be really interesting is to see Teela and Adam's mother again at some point after that moment, and the ways in which Teela feels like she's been.
So I guess that doesn't happen. Spoilers for the rest of the season.
I'm not telling you anything that happens in the rest of the season. I've done a damn good job of not revealing who comes back, who doesn't, who we see again, when we see them again. There is so much that happens in this first 5 episodes that to focus on one moment in episode 1 that you didn't like, I get it. You didn't like that moment, but fuck me, that feels like that is just that's like saying, well, I didn't like the drink I had with dinner, so the whole meal sucked. And it's just like, did it though?
They gave me a gin and Coke, Sejohn. Who drinks gin and Coke? Inspired by true events.
Floor. I'm happy you're going back to it, but yeah. We have rung this bell before. Like, give everything a good solid chance before you write it off, because God, like the feelings that you feel like are good and important and should be recognized, but like you gotta couch it all in context. And right now, you've got no context for how you felt in that moment. And I'd be really happy to come back and talk about this again once you have contextualized it.
And that's why I'm telling you that a part of the plan for this week is to finally wrap that series up. And after the second episode, I'm kind of excited to do it. I think one of the reasons why I feel the way I felt about it is that the last sequence where they introduced the head of the staff to the Enchantress, who's been keeping everything in a time bubble since the end of the first episode, however long ago that was, like, it was another huge exposition dump, all for the sake of Andra. So I'm like, oh man, like, I think I would have been okay with that type of storytelling. Like, usually I eschew the type of storytelling that, like, keeps something, like, for later on. But as I'm watching things and I'm, like, learning the value of maybe the flashback in storytelling, like, this was like the first time where I'm like, I think that would have worked better in flashback, like, to talk about what, like, even if you just shift the second and first episode, so like, we're gonna go see your father, what happened, it's kind of a long story, and then you immediately give that.
It's the anime way of doing of starting a show.
Yeah.
That's very very anime-esque to like start like 3 years into the story for the first episode, and then like you go back and you tell the story so far. Like I have definitely enjoyed that. I have definitely enjoyed that style of storytelling as well. It's just that like I think the other thing is that I have yet to watch this show in more than 2 sittings. When I first watched it, I watched it straight through in 1 sitting. The second time I watched the first 2 episodes and then the last 3, and then another time that I have watched it through was again in just 1 sitting. So I have never stopped for longer than one night.
Yeah. See, there's another interesting thing. So, I don't know. It's just strange. But I think that the big takeaway I'm going to have from this is that watching all this goddamn anime has affected me on a molecular level. And now I want more shows to be told to me like anime. Loving it. Absolutely loving it. All right, so we will drop into this more when I'm more prepared with information about the series. And after this discourse, I'm very excited about it. I'd like to address some quick things, if you'll allow me, Sejohn.
Yeah.
The Decker Movie Classics will be coming to an end on September 11th, the first round of them, which means that we've gone through 25 movies, and that's just crazy to me. The last one we did was An Officer and a Gentleman. Oh my god, An Officer and a Gentleman is such a good movie. But, like, I understand why people my entire life are like, I don't want to rewatch that movie.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, somebody's gonna die in a war movie like that, in a military establishment movie like that, and my money was on one character, but it was another character who ended up passing away, and it was very sad.
Yeah.
And even Joe Cocker singing "Love Lift Us Up Where We Belong" on repeat for 27 hours was not enough to soothe my heart for what happened to his friend in the movie. I'm not going to spoil it. But also, using An Officer and a Gentleman as like a weird hopping off point, we just released a very special episode about hot shots. And I cannot recommend that episode enough. But then going back and watching An Officer and a Gentleman, the way that they make a meal out of Love Lift Us Up Where We Belong totally influences the way they make a meal out of Dream Lover.
Yeah, man. Well, that was the thing to do, is to get that one song in a movie in the 80s and then just play it 6 times, and then it became the single that came out of that movie. Like, that is...
I think what's really interesting, to go back to Hot Shots and to give a little... go listen to our Hot Shots episode. I told my father about the stuff that we covered, and he's like, I'm probably going to listen to this one because I like the movie, and I'm interested in this insane theory that it's a Tom Cruise parody film. Like, I don't think it's true. Get the fuck out of here. And I'm like, that's the wrong movie. But I got it now because it's Officer and a Gentleman. But, like, Top Gun specifically has the theme song, which is Danger Zone. And then it has the love theme from Top Gun, which is a thing that became very... like the way to do it in the wake of Footloose. Footloose was the first movie that had like, we're going to have the Kenny Loggins song because every fucking movie in the 80s needs the Kenny Loggins song. But we also now need like the love song because we're not just selling to men. We want to sell to women as well.
Well, and you got to hit the pop station as well as the easy listening station. Yeah.
So like, that's why you have Footloose and Almost Paradise. And that's why Top Gun has Danger Zone and Take My Breath Away. I don't know why I almost forgot that. So then it's very interesting that the sensibilities, I mean, it's hyper interesting when you consider that, like, there's a reason why Jim Abrams does this, right? Is like, because it's like a little bit of misdirection, that it's just about the military establishment. But no, it's not. It's just, is Dream Lover is the Love Lift Us Up Where We Belong of Hot Shots, and you got to deal with it. So that was interesting. I watched Top Secret. And I have nothing but support for your exclamation point theory.
I know. I saw your tweet. Yeah, man. Like, there is definitely something about the world of the exclamation point films that we should probably revisit someday. Maybe it's just a one-off conversation here. But now you got to do Mafia, man.
I mean, I saw Mafia in theaters, but I'd love to go back to Jane Austen's Mafia. And then the last thing is, speaking of Kevin Dunn in Hot Shots, I watched Dave last night. And I wish I could tell everybody to go watch Dave, but the reason we watched Dave was because it was leaving HBO Max. So as of this recording, Dave is not available.
At least not there. I'm sure it'll pop up
I'm sure
on
it'll.
Hulu or something
I mean, it's a
somewhere,
Paramount film, so it'll probably go to Paramount. It'll go somewhere. And it's Ivan Reitman. I've been kind of on an Ivan Reitman kick after seeing that he did No Strings Attached. And with his, Evolution earlier, right? Another episode that we covered. And with the whole talk of, this is going to be the Ghostbusters that you deserve. I want to be like, what are other movies you've made, Ivan Reitman? And even though I saw Dave in theaters, probably too young to be seeing Dave in theaters.
I saw it in the drive-in, I believe, if I remember correctly. It was one of those ones that it came on after whatever the Disney movie or Don Bluth movie of the time was, and so I probably slept through most of it, but I do remember the beginning of it.
Yeah, no, Dave's part of the lexicon of the Decker family. We're walking, Bonnie Hunt, right, in another role, because she was just in Rain Man. That's her first on-screen appearance. So lots of things. But Kevin Dunn going from Hot Shots, and then in 93, where Charlie Sheen does Hot Shots Part 2, Cary Elwes does Robin Hood Men in Tights, for Kevin Dunn's 2-year follow-up to be Dave? And him also to be somebody in the system who's trying to screw things over for his own nefarious gains. It was very interesting. And Dave's just a great movie. To the fact that it's referenced in Wild Wild West, but we'll have to talk about that sometime down the line. But yeah, so then the final thing is, 2 days ago was the 1-year anniversary of Bill and Ted Face the Music. So if you haven't watched Bill and Ted Face the Music in a while, it's a perfect time to. I checked it out again today, and it is so good. It's been totally
on my
works.
Yeah, definitely. It's been on my radar a lot because we did another special episode that'll come out sometime in the future where two bad boys of comedy in the early 90s was talked about. And it got referenced a lot in all of the research I did for that special episode. The Bill and Ted of it all, and the idea that they were much more lovable goofs than we gave them credit for at first glance, because in the 90s, when comedy started to go real off the deep end, the ways in which Bill and Ted were kind of held up, and still are nowadays, held up as kind of like the good boys of the duo comedy group. They ride that out to its fullest in Face the Music, and it's a breath of fresh air how charming that movie is, and I think that's exactly what we said about it when we talked about it, right? Is that it just feels good.
It's a feel-good flick. And actually, very interestingly, talking about that, it's actually a time capsule episode, not a very special episode, so I don't know when you're going to hear it, right? One of my big thoughts about this particular mystery film is these two guys are as big a dorks as Bill and Ted and the guys in American Pie. At the end of the day, it's all a bunch of high school guys not really sure how they fit into the world because the world's not giving them much guidance.
No, the aimless high school white boy is a huge protagonist in cinema history. We should maybe talk more about that particular trope more often.
Yeah, especially in the past few recordings, it's come up a lot lately.
Yeah.
And maybe a deeper examination coming down the way. But I think that's everything that I wanted to cover in this one. Sejohn, anything else you want to add before we send this one out to the vault?
No, like I said, I'm just kind of sitting on my hands right now while I wait for stuff to come out. Been rereading and re-listening to a lot of D&D podcasts lately. I don't know why. There was Brian Posehn has the first one that I had ever truly listened to called Nerd Poker, way back in the day, like 10 years ago. And the very first season of that show is lost. So if anybody has any way of getting a hold of the first series of like the first arc of that show, to me, like if you've got it like backed up on a hard drive somewhere, like hit me up, because I would really love to re-listen to it. He plays it alongside his buddy that he wrote Deadpool with for a while there. Oh, what's his name? I can't remember. But he plays it with like a group of them. Like Patton Oswalt shows up from time to time as an asshole bard, and he actually like plays guitar and sings at people. It's amazing. It's so good. And the first arc ends when their DM actually his wife gets pregnant and they have a baby, so he has to stop DMing, which is like a classic DM's like story, right? And so what the DM does to end that particular arc off is they end up fighting a giant baby, and it is amazing. It's hilarious. But I didn't realize that he had a couple of years ago restarted that series, like literally like after a 5-year hiatus. He wanted to go back to D&D, so he does that. He plays D&D again, and so I've been re-listening to Nerd Poker, and that's fucking wild, like going back to that stuff. But a couple of other ones that I've been paying attention to. I started kind of dipping into the Critical Role world. I am by no means like deep in it like some people in this world are, but considering the like empire that those guys have created off of that series, I thought it might deserve a look-see by us here at the Say Report. And then, like my classic go-to is the Adventure Zone. Anybody out there that is like into D&D nerdy podcasts, like first season of Adventure Zone's really good. The new season's fucking amazing. Everything in between is still like my bag. They've even started doing like comics versions of the original arc of that are just so good. Carrie Peach, who did some arcs of who drew some arcs of Lumberjanes, does the artwork for them for that series, and it is gorgeous and amazing and still makes me cry. But yeah, like I've been doing a lot of that sort of stuff while I kind of just wait for the world to kind of either pick up or go back into hiding. I feel like we're at Groundhog Day here for COVID, trying to figure out if we're gonna have 6 more years of lockdown or what.
If we do, I think I might learn to play piano. That seemed to make Bill Murray happy. Excellent. So with that, I want to add one thing, right? Trailer for what's coming next week is Labor Day next week. And even though the show releases new content on Mondays, we've never done a proper Labor Day special. So we figured that it's the 5th season of the Say Report. Let's do a Labor Day special. And I'm springing this on Sejohn right now because he hasn't been getting back to my messages. It's going to be our first family-friendly episode of the Say Report.
Oh, man.
So you can put it on during your barbecue with the family and you like kind of show them the stuff you listen to when you're alone. You won't have to apologize to your mother for this episode. Hopefully. I mean, that's a big promise. And we're kind of known for breaking our promises here at the Say Report. But, yeah. That'll be available. That should drop right at midnight so that on Labor Day, if you want to have something to listen to with us instead of, Bruce Springsteen and John Cougar Mellencamp and John Bon Jovi, you can put on us for an hour and a half. We're great grilling conversation. Somebody told me that once. It may have been a dream.
Oh, man.
All right. So until next time, if you happen to have the first season of Nerd Poker, you can contact Sejohn and let him know how to exchange that with you at Siege versus the World on Twitter.
And if you want to bombard Devon with all the reasons why he's wrong about things, you can hit him up at Devon D. Decker.
Thank you. Thank you for just opening the floodgates. I look forward to your criticism. Will, get us out of here.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so it's delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.